AITA for refusing to let my sister's wedding plans interfere with my own mental health. I, 29F, have always been the planner in my family. I like structure, order, and predictability, which has been both a blessing and a curse growing up with a large, loud family. My younger sister, Emily, 26F, is the exact opposite. She's spontaneous, carefree, and thrives on chaos. We've always clashed over family events because of these differences, but lately, it feels like the tension has escalated to an almost unbearable level. Emily got engaged last year and immediately started planning her wedding. At first, I was excited for her and offered to help in whatever way she needed. I truly wanted this to be a positive experience for both of us. However, almost immediately, it became clear that our visions for the wedding were not compatible. Emily wants an anything-goes wedding. She wants to host it at a random park she visited once, have a DJ she met at a local bar, and incorporate several last-minute ideas that are constantly changing. I tried to compromise and help her stay organized, but every suggestion I made was met with, "Oh, we'll figure out later," or "that's not my vibe." The first major conflict happened when she invited me to the wedding planning meeting at her apartment. I thought it would be a structured discussion, maybe going over the guest list or finalizing vendors. Instead, it was complete chaos. She had 3 friends over, 2 cats roaming around, and papers and paint swatches everywhere. She expected me to make snap decisions on things like florals, catering, and photography, even though nothing was finalized and half of it wasn't budgeted. I got flustered and started making suggestions about organizing a timeline, budgeting, and confirming vendors. Emily got visibly upset and snapped at me, saying I was ruining the fun and that I was too controlling. I tried to explain that my intention was to make her wedding less stressful for her, but she told me I was overreacting and stormed out. After that, I tried to distance myself from the wedding planning while still being supportive in other ways. I agreed to help with small tasks like addressing invitations and attending vendor tastings, but only if it didn't conflict with my work schedule. This is when another problem arose. Emily insisted that I attend every single vendor meeting, including some that were scheduled during work hours, and claimed that family should come first. I explained that I have a full-time job and that missing work was not an option, but she accused me of being selfish and not caring about her special day. Our mom got involved and tried to mediate, but she seems to side with Emily because she thinks I'm too rigid and serious. The situation escalated further when Emily decided she wanted to create a large DIY decoration project for the wedding. She asked me to help for an entire weekend. I had prior commitments and politely declined, offering to help in smaller ways that fit into my schedule. Emily got angry and accused me of being lazy and unsupportive. She even texted our extended family, framing it as though I was refusing to help at all. I felt blindsided because I had been contributing in ways that worked for me, but apparently it wasn't enough. Things really came to a head 2 weeks ago. Emily sent me a long email detailing her ideal wedding plan and explicitly stating that if I couldn't be fully involved, I might as well not come at all. She said she didn't want someone at her wedding who doesn't care enough to participate fully. I was shocked and hurt. I value my relationship with Emily and have never wanted to be the cause of family tension, but this felt like an unreasonable ultimatum. After discussing it with my therapist, I decided to write her back and set some firm boundaries. I explained that while I love her and want to celebrate her wedding, I cannot commit to every last detail in a way that compromises my mental health and professional responsibilities. I told her I would attend the wedding and be present for her in the ways that I can, but I will not participate in every planning decision or weekend DIY project. Emily's response was not good. She accused me of ruining her wedding experience, not caring about family, and even suggested I was being dramatic and selfish. Our mom called me crying, saying that Emily is devastated and that I am causing unnecessary family drama. I've tried to be calm and empathetic, but I can't help feeling like I'm being unfairly blamed for simply protecting my mental health. My friends say I'm absolutely in the right to set boundaries, but the way my family is talking about it makes me second-guess myself. I want to support Emily, but I also don't want to sacrifice my own well-being and sense of balance just to meet her constantly changing, high-stress expectations. I feel like attending the wedding and contributing in ways that fit my schedule is a reasonable compromise. Yet, everyone is acting like I'm being the villain in this scenario. So, Reddit AITA for refusing to let my sister's wedding planning dictate my life and mental health. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in after she trashed my apartment. So I, 28F, have been living in a one-bedroom apartment in the city for about 3 years. I work in marketing, which I love, and I've managed to build a decent life here. About 6 months ago, my sister, 32F, called me saying that she had lost her job and needed somewhere to stay temporarily. She explained that she was having some financial troubles and that her lease had ended. I felt bad for her because we've always been close and my parents live out of state, so I offered for her to stay for a few weeks until she got back on her feet. At first, it was fine. She was polite, cleaned up after herself, and tried to help with groceries. But over the weeks, things started to go downhill. She would leave dishes in the sink for days, pile laundry on the floor, and bring over friends without telling me. She also started borrowing money for little things like coffee and snacks, which I didn't mind at first, but it added up quickly. The real breaking point came about a month ago. I had been away for a weekend visiting a friend, and when I came back, my apartment looked like a hurricane had hit. She had tried to cook a complicated meal and ended up burning it. The smoke detector was going off when I walked in. There was burnt food all over the stove and counters, and my couch had crumbs and stains all over it. She had also borrowed my favorite blender and accidentally shattered it while making smoothies. On top of that, she had let her cat roam freely in my apartment, even though I am allergic and have never kept pets. My allergies flared up immediately, and I ended up having to spend the night at a friend's place because my eyes and throat were so irritated. I called her to discuss the situation. I tried to stay calm, but I was obviously upset. I told her that she needed to either take responsibility for cleaning up and fixing the damages, or she needed to find another place to stay. She got defensive and accused me of overreacting, saying she had been under a lot of stress and hadn't meant to cause problems. I explained that my apartment is my personal space and that I cannot live in a mess like that, especially with my allergies and work schedule. She started crying and said I was being unfair, that I was abandoning her when she needed me most. She tried to guilt me by saying that our parents would be upset if I didn't help her. I told her that while I love her, I also have boundaries, and this was beyond what I was comfortable with. After that conversation, she started leaving my apartment more frequently, but she didn't move out entirely. Instead, she came back later that week and tried to apologize and promise to fix everything. I agreed to let her stay one more week while she figured out her next steps, hoping things would improve. During that week, she mostly stayed out, but she came back one night and left the apartment in worse condition than before. There were stains on the carpet from spilled drinks, crumbs and wrappers all over the floor, and she left her laundry in the living room, which she said she didn't have time to put away. My anxiety was through the roof at this point, and I told her that this arrangement was no longer acceptable. She begged me to give her one more chance, but I refused. I told her that she needed to find a new place immediately, or I would have to call my landlord and report that someone was living here illegally. She called our parents and told them I had kicked her out unfairly. They were upset and said I should be more understanding, considering her struggles. I tried explaining the situation in detail, but they still think I was harsh and unsympathetic. I feel terrible because I do want to help her, but I also feel like my home and peace of mind were completely disregarded. I've offered to help her find a new apartment and even loan some money for the deposit, but I will not let her live here anymore. Now, she stopped talking to me and has been posting on social media about how cruel I am. Some of my mutual friends think I overreacted and that I should have been more patient. I'm starting to feel guilty but at the same time, I don't think I can ever allow her back after what happened. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in after she trashed my apartment. AITA for refusing to let my sister move back in with me after she left her abusive husband. I, 32F, have always had a complicated relationship with my sister, Claire, 35F. Growing up, we were close in some ways, but very different in others. She's impulsive, emotional, and prone to making big decisions without thinking them through, while I'm methodical, cautious, and value stability. We had a falling out a few years ago after she made some choices that I considered reckless, but we eventually reconciled, albeit cautiously. I live in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in the city. It's not huge, but it's comfortable, and I've worked hard to make a place where I feel safe and in control. I live alone, which I value deeply, and my routine is something I'm very protective of. I enjoy my job, my hobbies, and having the freedom to organize my life as I see fit. About 2 weeks ago, Claire called me in tears. She told me she had left her husband, Mark, 36M, after years of emotional and verbal abuse. She didn't want to go into all the details at that moment, but she said she had nowhere to go and asked if she could stay with me temporarily. I could hear the panic and exhaustion in her voice, and my heart went out to her. I told her I needed to think about it, but my immediate thought was, I want to help her, but can I handle this without my life being completely disrupted? After thinking it through, I called her back and told her I couldn't let her move in. My reasons were multifaceted. First, my apartment is small. I work long hours and need my personal space to decompress. Having someone else living with me would mean no privacy and a disruption of my carefully maintained routines. Second, Claire and I have different lifestyles. She stays up late, leaves things messy, and is highly emotional. I wasn't sure I could provide the support she needs while also protecting my own mental health. Finally, I worried about the precedent it would set. In the past, she's had short-term crises, and I've bailed her out, only to have her end up overstaying or creating tension in my home. When I told her, she broke down over the phone. She accused me of being selfish and cruel, saying that family should support each other in times of need. She also implied that my hesitation meant I didn't care about her safety or well-being. I tried to explain that I cared deeply, but I also had boundaries, and that helping her didn't necessarily mean letting her live with me. I suggested alternatives, staying with a friend, looking for temporary housing through social services, or even a short-term rental if she could manage it financially. Claire wasn't satisfied. She called my parents, who live in another state, and told them I was refusing to help her in her time of need. They called me furious, saying I was heartless and that I should reconsider. My father said, "She's your sister, and she's in danger. How can you turn your back on her?" I tried to explain my reasoning calmly, but they weren't hearing it. They even hinted that they would make a point of paying for her to come live with me if I refused, which I found invasive and unfair. The tension escalated when Claire posted on social media about her situation. She didn't mention me by name, but she described someone refusing to help her in a time of crisis, and my parents shared it, painting me as the villain. I received messages from friends and distant relatives, some supporting me, but many expressing shock and disappointment. I felt overwhelmed and trapped between wanting to support my sister emotionally and maintaining my own boundaries. Over the next few days, I tried to maintain contact with Claire without letting her move in. I called her, checked in, helped her research housing options, and even offered to help with a deposit if she found a short-term rental. She accepted some of this help, but her anger toward me simmered. Our conversations were tense and emotional, as she accused me repeatedly of prioritizing my comfort over her safety. I reminded her that safety isn't just about a place to sleep, and that I was committed to helping her find safe accommodations, just not in my home. A week later, she found a small studio apartment through a local housing assistance program. I contributed to the first month's rent and helped her move in. She seemed grateful, but still distant and cold toward me. Our relationship feels strained. Our parents haven't stopped hinting that I owe her more than I did, and I feel exhausted trying to navigate their criticism while also respecting my own limits. I know some people might say I should have let her stay with me, that family comes first, and that I missed a chance to help her during a critical time. On the other hand, I also know that allowing her to move in would have been extremely difficult for both of us and might have caused more harm than good. I believe I found a compromise by providing financial and logistical support without compromising my boundaries, but I can't shake the feeling that many people see my actions as cold or selfish. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister move in after leaving her abusive husband. Even though I did help her find safe housing and support her financially, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after what she did to me. I, 28F, have always been close to my younger sister, Emma, 25F. Growing up, we had the usual sibling rivalry, but for the most part, we were each other's biggest supporters. Our parents divorced when I was 15, and I often took on the role of helping her navigate the emotional fallout, which brought us even closer. Despite some bumps in our relationship during our teenage years, we've always made up and stayed connected. Over the past few years, however, I've started noticing that Emma can be extremely manipulative and self-centered, though I always try to give her the benefit of the doubt because, well, she's my sister. Emma got engaged about a year ago. I was thrilled at first and offered to help with wedding planning. I have an eye for detail, and she knows I'm meticulous with organizing events. She seemed excited about it, and I genuinely wanted to help. Over the course of a few months, I realized that Emma had a very specific vision of her wedding. And while that's understandable, she treated my suggestions as if they were personal attacks. For example, I suggested some florists that were affordable but beautiful, and she immediately dismissed them, saying that I wouldn't understand her style, even though she hadn't seen the portfolios yet. I tried to let it go, thinking maybe she just wanted full control, but the next few interactions made it clear she wasn't just being picky, she was actively trying to exclude my input without acknowledging my effort. The biggest blow came about 3 months before the wedding. Emma asked me to help coordinate the seating chart. I spent an entire weekend working on it, considering family dynamics, friendships, and logistics, only to have her completely disregard it and tell me she had found a better solution. I was frustrated, but tried to stay calm. I reminded her that I had put a lot of thought into it, and that my plan would have minimized tension between guests. She laughed it off and said I was overthinking everything, and that it's her day, not mine. I wanted to respect her wishes, so I let it go, but I couldn't help feeling hurt. It felt like nothing I did mattered to her. Then, about a month before the wedding, she asked me to help pick a dress for her bridesmaids. I went shopping with her and her maid of honor, and she asked for my opinion on 2 dresses. When I said I thought one of them suited the color scheme better and looked more flattering, she exploded. She accused me of trying to make her wedding about my tastes and stormed out. I apologized if I came off the wrong way and tried to reassure her I just wanted what was best for her, but she wouldn't listen. After that, she barely spoke to me unless it was absolutely necessary. I started feeling like I was walking on eggshells around her, but I kept hoping things would calm down after the wedding. Then came the final straw. About 2 weeks before the wedding, Emma sent me a group message to all the bridesmaids and close family. In it, she asked everyone to keep the ceremony simple, classy, and intimate, and specifically stated that anyone causing drama would not be welcome. I didn't think much of it first, but the message continued. She included a list of things she was unhappy about with certain family members. When I read her note, my name was at the top. She criticized me for being overbearing, judgmental, and impossible to please, citing my previous suggestions about seating and dresses as evidence. I was shocked. I had never acted in a hostile way, never raised my voice, never insulted anyone. I had been trying to help, and now she had painted me as the villain to the entire wedding party. I called her immediately to talk, hoping to clear the air. I told her I was hurt by being publicly called out and that I thought we could talk things through privately instead of airing grievances to everyone. She yelled at me, telling me that I had no right to get upset and that everyone knows I'm right about this, and that if I didn't apologize, I shouldn't expect to be at the wedding. I was taken aback. I couldn't believe she was framing this as though I had done something wrong. I tried reasoning, explaining that I wasn't going to apologize for trying to help and that her tone in the message was unfair. She hung up on me. I spent a couple of days thinking about whether to attend. I wanted to be there for her. I wanted to support her, but I also didn't want to be treated as the villain in front of everyone, especially when I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. I told her via text that I couldn't in good conscience attend the wedding if I was being portrayed as a problem, and that I hoped she would understand. I also said I still loved her and hoped we could reconcile afterward. She responded with a simple fine. Don't bother showing up. Don't expect anything from me anymore, and blocked me on social media. Our parents are furious with me. They say I'm overreacting and that weddings are emotional, so some friction is normal. They also argue that Emma probably didn't mean it the way I took it. I understand weddings can be stressful, but I also feel that being publicly shamed for trying to help is not something I should just overlook. Some of my mutual friends with Emma think I should have gone, claiming my absence will damage the family image and make it seem like I'm overdramatic. I keep wondering if I made the right choice by standing my ground. On one hand, I feel like I need to protect myself from being publicly humiliated. On the other hand, I feel guilty for potentially missing one of the most important days in my sister's life. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she publicly accused me of being overbearing and impossible to please, even though I was just trying to help her plan it? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of a family secret? I, 28F, have always been close with my sister, Emily, 32F. We grew up in a fairly typical household, but our parents, while loving, had a lot of unspoken tension. Emily got engaged about 6 months ago to a man named Jason, 33M, whom I had met a handful of times. I liked him at first. He seemed kind and funny, and he genuinely appeared to care about Emily. When she told me the engagement news, I was thrilled for her, as I always wanted her to find someone who treated her well. The trouble started when Emily asked me to help with the wedding planning. At first, I thought it would be fun. I love planning and organizing, so I jumped in, helping with invitations, venues, and decorations. I also tried to offer advice about the guest list, which is where things got complicated. Emily's fiancé has a fairly large family, some of whom I had never met, and she wanted to invite almost everyone. I suggested trimming the guest list a bit to keep things manageable and less expensive. Emily brushed off my concerns, saying, "It's our day. We want everyone there." I agreed reluctantly because I didn't want to argue. A few weeks later, I accidentally overheard a conversation between my mother and Emily. They were talking about Jason's brother, Mark, who Emily had never mentioned to me. My mother mentioned that Mark had a criminal record for assault and had previously been violent in domestic situations. I was shocked. I tried to brush it off at first, thinking maybe it wasn't relevant to the wedding. But then Emily confided in me that she knew about it, but she believed he had changed and didn't want to exclude family. I understood wanting to give people second chances, but I was extremely uncomfortable. I mentioned my concerns gently, but Emily got defensive, saying I was being judgmental and controlling. Over the next few months, I watched the wedding planning become more stressful. Emily insisted that everything had to be perfect, and she got upset when anyone questioned her decisions. I tried to be supportive, but the thought of attending a wedding where Mark would be present made me anxious. I have a friend who is a domestic violence survivor, and the idea of being around someone with that history without warning felt wrong. I even spoke to my parents, hoping they might persuade Emily to address the issue, but they sided with her, saying it was her decision. Finally, 2 weeks before the wedding, Emily called me. She was frustrated that I hadn't RSVP'd yet. I told her honestly that I was uncomfortable attending because of the presence of her brother-in-law. She reacted angrily, accusing me of being selfish and trying to ruin her happiness. She said, "This is my wedding. You don't get to make decisions for me." I tried to explain that it wasn't about controlling her day, but about my boundaries and comfort. I said I could support her in other ways, help with decorations, run errands, whatever she needed, but I could not be there in person. The argument escalated. Emily yelled that I had always been judgmental and that I didn't care about family. She hung up on me, and I haven't spoken to her since. I informed my parents and some close family members that I would not attend, and while some understood, others have called me heartless and cruel. My cousin even said, "It's just one night. You're being ridiculous." I feel torn. On one hand, I love my sister and don't want to miss her wedding or hurt her. But on the other hand, attending would make me deeply uncomfortable. I have tried to be supportive in other ways, and I am willing to help her celebrate in alternative ways, like hosting a small pre-wedding brunch or helping her with post-wedding tasks. I'm also worried about long-term family dynamics. Some relatives are upset and have been messaging me, trying to convince me to forgive and forget and just show up. I fear that if I give in now, it will feel like I am compromising my principles and personal boundaries. Since making my decision, I have been feeling anxious and guilty, especially because Emily and I were always close. I keep questioning if I'm overreacting or if it really is that serious. I have sought advice from friends outside the family, and they mostly support my decision, saying that personal safety and comfort are valid reasons to abstain from attending an event. But family opinions are weighing heavily on me, and the constant messages from relatives are making it difficult to feel at peace. I also feel like Emily sees me as the antagonist now. Some family members are taking her side, saying that I am ruining the wedding vibe. I haven't confronted her again because I think that would just escalate things further. My hope is to maintain a relationship with her in the long term, but right now, it feels fractured. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding due to her brother-in-law's past? I'm trying to balance my own mental well-being and boundaries with family expectations, but it feels like no matter what I do, someone is upset. I have offered to be involved in the wedding in ways that don't involve physical presence, but many people are interpreting my choice as me being disrespectful or selfish. I truly don't want to hurt my sister, and I want her to be happy, but the anxiety and discomfort I feel regarding her brother-in-law are very real. So, AITA for putting my own boundaries above attending my sister's wedding? Or should I just go despite my concerns for the sake of family peace? AITA for potentially ruining my younger brother's wedding because I didn't follow the dress code? I, 32M, have a younger brother, Jake, 28M, who is getting married this summer. Jake and I have always been close, but we've had our fair share of disagreements over the years. We grew up in a family that wasn't particularly traditional, but my parents valued appearances and social etiquette. I've always been a bit more rebellious and casual in my style, whereas Jake has been the type to follow rules and respect expectations. A few months ago, Jake got engaged to his fiancée, Rachel, 27F. From the beginning, she was very clear about the wedding style and her expectations. The wedding is formal, semi-traditional, black tie optional, with a color palette of navy, gold, and cream. She and Jake sent out the invitations with a note specifying the dress code and even included examples of acceptable attire. They also mentioned that no casual clothes would be permitted and that they expected their guests to respect this. Initially, I wasn't too worried. I have a decent collection of suits and formal wear, so I figured I'd find something appropriate. However, I have this one black velvet blazer that I absolutely love. It's stylish, unique, and a little flashy, but it's not exactly classic formal. I tried pairing it with black dress pants, a white shirt, and a black tie, but the overall look leaned a bit avant-garde. I showed a picture to my partner, Lila, 30F, and she said it looked amazing, very fashion-forward, and that it would make me stand out in a good way. A week before the wedding, I decided to message Jake to confirm my outfit choice. I said, "Hey, just checking. Would this blazer be okay for the wedding?" I attached the picture. Jake's response was immediate and short. "Oh no, that's not really formal enough. It's a cool blazer, but it doesn't match the wedding vibe. Please just stick to something classic." I felt a little annoyed. He wasn't giving me much room for interpretation, and I thought my look was perfectly suitable, just a bit unconventional. I tried to compromise by suggesting another outfit, a dark navy suit with a subtle patterned tie. Jake responded again, insisting that the suit was fine, but that he really didn't want me wearing anything that distracts from the wedding colors or theme. At this point, I felt like he was being controlling over something minor. I argued with Lila about it, saying that weddings shouldn't feel like a uniform inspection and that everyone should have a little freedom to express themselves. Lila agreed with me to some extent, although she suggested I at least consider Jake's wishes. Fast forward to the wedding day. I arrived early to help with some last-minute arrangements. I was wearing my black velvet blazer, black dress pants, crisp white shirt, and my favorite black leather shoes. When I walked in, Jake's best man, Tom, gave me a surprised look and muttered, "Wow, that's bold." I waved it off, assuming he meant it in a neutral or positive way. As soon as Jake saw me, his expression changed. He looked visibly upset and said, "Really? This is what you're wearing?" I tried to explain that I thought it was formal and stylish, but he cut me off and said, "You knew what the dress code was. This is not the time to make a statement. You're drawing attention away from Rachel and me, and honestly, it feels disrespectful." I felt hurt because I had intended to celebrate his day, not overshadow it. Rachel also seemed frustrated, though she tried to hide it. Throughout the ceremony, I noticed a few guests whispering and glancing at my outfit. I could feel Jake's tension the entire time. During the reception, he pulled me aside and said that he felt embarrassed and that my outfit had made some family members uncomfortable. He also said that Rachel had cried earlier because she felt like the wedding wasn't going as planned. I apologized, explaining that I didn't mean to cause any stress, but I also mentioned that I had asked him beforehand and thought my outfit was appropriate. Later that evening, after some drinks, I overheard a conversation between my cousin and one of Rachel's friends. They were debating whether my blazer was too flashy or a statement piece that suits my personality. I started to feel conflicted. On one hand, I genuinely like my outfit and feel like I wasn't being disrespectful. On the other hand, I can see how it could be interpreted as drawing attention away from the couple. After the wedding, I didn't speak much to Jake for a few days because he was still visibly upset. He sent me a message saying, "I just want you to know that I was really hurt. I felt like my wedding wasn't respected, and it's going to take some time for me to get past it." I responded, saying I was sorry for causing any upset, but I also felt like he was overreacting and that I had tried to be polite by checking with him in advance. Our parents got involved a little, suggesting that I should have just followed the dress code to avoid tension. Some of my friends argue that I should have worn my blazer anyway, because it represents who I am, and that weddings shouldn't require everyone to completely suppress their individuality. Now, Jake is distant, and I feel like there's a lingering tension. I understand that weddings are important and that the couple deserves to have their day go smoothly, but I also feel like I shouldn't have to completely erase my personality to avoid a minor wardrobe disagreement. So, AITA for wearing the blazer I loved instead of following the exact dress code for my brother's wedding. Even though I asked him in advance and he told me not to wear it, the more I think about it, the more I wonder if I truly crossed a line or if this is just a difference in how much importance we place on adhering to rules versus personal expression. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she treated my partner? So, this is going to be a long one, but I need to get it all out. I, 28F, have a younger sister, Emily, 25F, who has always been the golden child in our family. I've never been super close with her, but we've always been cordial. I started dating my partner, Alex, 30M, about 3 years ago, and things have been going really well. He's kind, funny, and I genuinely can't imagine my life without him. I introduced him to my family last year, and overall, they liked him, except for Emily. Emily is getting married next month, and I was initially excited to be a bridesmaid. The wedding planning has been a bit stressful for her, which I understand, but things escalated in ways I didn't expect. She has been extremely controlling about everything. At first, it was little things like insisting I wear a specific dress that I hate, to making me help with tasks at times that don't fit my schedule. I try to be patient, but it started to wear on me. The breaking point came when she started openly criticizing Alex. It started with little comments at family gatherings like, "Are you sure she's bringing him?" Or, "I just don't know if he fits in with our family." I tried to brush it off, thinking she was just stressed about the wedding. But things escalated when she invited Alex to help with wedding setup one weekend. Alex agreed, thinking it would be nice to help and bond with the family. When he got there, Emily immediately criticized his every move. She told him he was doing it wrong, even though he had done things exactly as instructed, and she snapped at him for not getting it fast enough. She even made a public comment in front of my parents, saying maybe some people just shouldn't be involved in family things if they can't handle the simplest tasks. Alex left feeling humiliated, and I was furious. I tried to talk to Emily, but she brushed it off, saying she was just stressed and that Alex was too sensitive. A few days later, she sent me a long text asking me to reconsider some roles at the wedding because of ongoing tension. I tried to explain that the issue wasn't with me, but with how she treated Alex. She dismissed it entirely and implied that I should just make it work, because it was her special day. I offered to attend as a guest without participating in the wedding duties, hoping there would be a compromise, but she said that if I wasn't a bridesmaid, I shouldn't come at all. This is where I drew the line. I don't want to be part of a wedding where my partner is disrespected and humiliated. I told her I wouldn't be attending if Alex wasn't welcome, and she responded by saying I was being selfish and ruining her big day. She's since gone around our extended family, telling them that I'm being dramatic and that I hate weddings and don't care about her happiness. My parents are upset with me too. They think I'm overreacting and that I should just suck it up for a day. They said that since it's Emily's wedding, it should be all about her, and that I'm letting Alex dictate my life. I tried explaining that attending would feel like endorsing how she treated him, and that I'm setting boundaries for my relationship, but they think I'm being unreasonable. I haven't spoken to Emily directly since I sent my final text saying I wouldn't attend, and my friends are split. Some say I'm right to stand up for my partner, while others say I should have just swallowed it for one day and avoided family drama. I feel stuck because I genuinely care about my sister and want her to have a happy wedding, but I also feel like letting her treat Alex that way sets a terrible precedent for my relationship and my self-respect. I keep thinking about the humiliation Alex felt and how it would feel to walk into a room where my sister and family are rolling their eyes at him. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of the way she treated my partner? I know weddings are supposed to be about the bride, but at what point does it cross the line into being unfair and toxic? I don't want to burn bridges, but I also can't compromise my principles or put Alex through that kind of embarrassment. I've been getting texts and calls from other relatives trying to convince me to go, but I keep thinking that showing up would feel disingenuous and make me resentful. I don't want to create drama, but I also feel like if I go, I'll be silently endorsing her behavior, which I can't do. The more I think about it, the more I realize that this isn't just about the wedding. It's about her pattern of controlling behavior and how it affects the people I care about. I love my sister, but I also have to protect my relationship and my sense of self-worth. I just didn't expect it to come to this. So, Reddit AITA for choosing not to attend my sister's wedding because she treated my partner disrespectfully, even though my parents and some family members think I'm overreacting. AITA for refusing to let my sister's new boyfriend move in with us, even though she said it would help him. I, 32F, live with my younger sister, Emily, 28F, in a 2-bedroom apartment in a mid-sized city. We've been living together for about 3 years, and things have generally gone well. We split rent and utilities 50/50ths, we share chores, and we get along most of the time. Before anyone asks, yes, it's a little cramped, but we manage. My sister has always been a bit impulsive and dramatic, but I love her, and we have a close relationship. About 2 months ago, Emily started dating someone new, Jason, 30M. I didn't meet him right away because she wanted to keep the relationship private at first, which I understood. Eventually, she introduced him to me over dinner at our apartment. At first, he seemed polite and friendly enough, but I noticed he was a bit pushy and made several offhand comments that rubbed me the wrong way. For example, he kept making jokes about how my apartment was small and old-fashioned, and how he could upgrade our living situation if I just let him help out financially. I laughed it off at the time because I didn't want to start a fight, but it set off a little alarm in my mind. A couple of weeks later, Emily came to me and said that Jason was having financial problems. He'd recently lost his job and was behind on rent at his place. She said he needed a place to stay temporarily and asked if he could move in with us until he got back on his feet. She assured me it would only be for a month or two and that he would contribute to groceries and help with chores. I hesitated immediately. My first concern was space. Our apartment is 2 bedrooms. I sleep in one, Emily in the other. The only real option for Jason would be to sleep on the couch in the living room, which isn't ideal for anyone. I also worried about the dynamic. I barely knew him, and having a stranger live with us could create tension. I brought these concerns up with Emily, but she insisted it would be fine and that I was being dramatic and overprotective. She even said that refusing would make her resent me. After thinking it over, I told her I wasn't comfortable with Jason moving in. I suggested alternatives. He could stay with friends, a short-term sublet, or even look into a cheaper place temporarily. I also mentioned that if he were to move in, I would need to set ground rules and boundaries, specific contributions to rent and chores, no overnight guests without permission, no long-term plans, etc. Emily got very upset. She said I didn't trust her judgment and that I was prioritizing my comfort over her happiness. She accused me of being selfish and controlling. Over the next few weeks, the tension grew. Emily started bringing Jason over more frequently, staying late into the night, and leaving him alone in the apartment when she went to work. He started commenting more on my habits and my strict rules, making me feel uncomfortable in my own home. I tried talking to Emily about it, saying that while I was fine with occasional visits, having him essentially live here without my consent crossed a line. Emily accused me of playing games and trying to sabotage her relationship. The breaking point came last weekend. Emily came home from work and told me that Jason had nowhere to go that night because his friend had canceled and she wanted to let him stay over on the couch. I said no firmly. She got angry and started yelling at me, calling me cruel and unhelpful. She said, "If you were really my sister, you'd care more about people than stupid rules." Jason, who was in the room, chimed in and said I was being unreasonable and selfish, and that Emily shouldn't have to deal with me, making life difficult. I ended up leaving the apartment for a few hours to cool down, and when I returned, Jason was gone, but Emily was clearly still upset. Since then, our relationship has been tense. Emily barely talks to me, and when she does, it's mostly passive-aggressive comments about how I'm selfish and rigid, or how I don't care about people who need help. She started spending more time at Jason's place or with friends, and our home feels less like a shared space and more like a minefield. I feel justified in my decision. I didn't feel comfortable letting someone I barely know move in, especially when our living situation is tight and I have my own privacy and boundaries to consider. But Emily says I ruined her relationship and that I'm being unreasonable for prioritizing my comfort over helping someone in need. I haven't spoken to Jason directly since the incident, and I don't plan to, but Emily continues to bring him up in arguments. I'm wondering if I really was too harsh, or if I was right to protect my living space and my personal comfort. My friends are divided. Some say I was totally justified. Others say I should have at least tried to accommodate him temporarily. I feel stuck because I don't want to jeopardize my relationship with my sister, but I also can't compromise my boundaries to that extent. So, AITA for refusing to let my sister's boyfriend move in, even though she said it would help him. I feel like I'm protecting my space, but I also feel like I'm losing my sister over it. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's destination wedding after years of being treated poorly. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's destination wedding. This has been building up for years, and I think it finally came to a head recently. I, 32F, have an older sister, Emily, 36F, and growing up, our relationship was complicated. Our parents always played favorites. Emily was the golden child. She got better grades, more praise, and more attention. I was constantly compared to her, and any accomplishment I had was downplayed. For instance, when I won a regional art contest in high school, my parents barely acknowledged it, but when Emily won a science fair the same year, there was a big family celebration. Over the years, I learned to just keep my distance emotionally because it was exhausting to seek validation. Despite that, I try to maintain some kind of bond with Emily. I congratulated her on milestones, celebrated her birthdays, and tried to be there during important moments, even when I was barely invited to them. College was rough because Emily was already well into her career path and social circles, and my parents often invited her friends to family gatherings while I felt invisible. She moved abroad for a few years for work, and honestly, it was a relief because our interactions were minimal. Fast forward to a year ago, Emily got engaged to her now fiancé, Mark, 34 m. She immediately announced that she was having a destination wedding in Hawaii and that it would be a small, intimate affair with close family only. She sent out save the dates with the location and expected guests to cover their own travel and lodging. The moment I saw it, I had a sinking feeling. I tried to approach it carefully. I asked my parents if they thought it was reasonable to expect everyone to spend thousands of dollars to attend a wedding. My mom said, "It's Emily's special day. She's just asking that you prioritize her." My dad said nothing. I felt a knot in my stomach because I remembered all the times I'd put effort into supporting Emily, only to have my efforts ignored or minimized. The financial aspect wasn't trivial. I make a decent salary, but I also have student loans and a mortgage. A trip to Hawaii would cost over $3,000 for me alone. I considered it carefully because I wanted to support my sister, but I also knew it would be a huge financial strain. I emailed Emily directly to let her know that I could not attend. I wrote something thoughtful, expressing that I love her and wish her the best, but I simply couldn't make the trip work financially. I also mentioned that I hoped she understood and that I'd love to celebrate with her before and after the wedding in ways that were possible for me. Her response was immediate and harsh. She said she was incredibly hurt and that my absence would be noticed by everyone. She accused me of not caring about her happiness and of letting money dictate family loyalty. She also reminded me of past family vacations and gatherings I had skipped, framing it as a pattern of neglect. I tried to respond calmly, emphasizing that I had never stopped caring and that I wasn't ignoring her life intentionally. This led to a long, drawn-out argument over email. She claimed I was selfish, that I was choosing myself over family, and even suggested that my reluctance to travel indicated long-standing resentment toward her. I explained my feelings about growing up feeling invisible in our family and how it was difficult for me to justify spending thousands of dollars on a wedding when I had already been financially responsible for myself in other ways. She dismissed my feelings as petty excuses and accused me of bringing up the past to deflect from the present. Things escalated when my parents got involved. My mom tried to mediate, but essentially told me to make an effort or don't complain about the consequences. My dad called me once and said, "You're really letting your sister down," which made me feel even more isolated. A few months later, Emily sent a list of events leading up to the wedding, including a rehearsal dinner, a beach welcome party, and a group surfing lesson. My absence would have been noticeable at every one of these events, and she made it clear in her messages that she was upset about that. I stood firm and told her again that I couldn't attend, offering to host a celebratory dinner for her and Mark when they returned from Hawaii. She responded by unfollowing me on social media and refusing to answer my calls. The wedding day passed. Photos surfaced online of everyone in Hawaii looking happy, and I have to admit, it hurt to see them together, knowing I wasn't there. Some of our mutual friends reached out, asking why I wasn't there, and I had to give a vague answer about financial constraints. This only amplified my anxiety and guilt. My parents didn't attend either because my mom had a last-minute work emergency, which left me feeling both relieved and abandoned. After the wedding, Emily sent a cold, short email thanking me for my thoughts and reiterating that she was disappointed in my absence. I responded politely, expressing my hope to maintain a relationship, but she hasn't replied since. I feel torn because part of me thinks I should have tried harder to attend, but another part of me is convinced that my feelings about being treated poorly for years justify my decision. I've made efforts to maintain a bond in other ways, but Emily seems unwilling to meet me halfway. My friends are divided. Some say I was right to set boundaries, and that spending thousands on a trip I couldn't comfortably afford is unreasonable. Others say family events, especially weddings, are exceptions and that I should have found a way to go, given our parents' involvement and Emily's expectations. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's destination wedding after years of feeling overlooked and underappreciated by both her and our parents. I honestly don't want to burn bridges, but I also feel like I have to protect my financial stability and my emotional well-being. I'm now in a limbo where my sister doesn't speak to me My parents are passive-aggressive, and I'm trying to figure out whether standing my ground was truly selfish or justified. I would like perspective from those who can see both sides of this complicated family dynamic. AITA for losing my cool at my sister's wedding and causing a huge scene? I, 29M, have always had a complicated relationship with my sister, Emily, 31F. Growing up, we were close in some ways, but constantly at odds in others. She's always been the perfect one, academically successful, socially charismatic, and generally able to charm everyone she meets, while I've struggled more with self-esteem and finding my place. Our parents were partial to her in ways that were sometimes subtle, but mostly obvious, and I think that dynamic shaped a lot of the tension between us. I've never been the type to confront her directly about it, mostly because I wanted to avoid conflict, but it's always simmered beneath the surface. Emily got engaged about a year ago to a guy named Jake, 33M. He's a decent guy from what I've seen, friendly, polite, and supportive, but I've always felt like he's a bit of a pushover, especially when it comes to Emily. I've noticed he sometimes bends over backward to please her, which is fine, but it makes me uneasy because I've seen how Emily can manipulate situations to get what she wants without realizing the impact on others. When Emily and Jake started planning their wedding, I offered to help in small ways, helping choose songs for the playlist, giving my opinion on venues, etc. Initially, everything seemed fine, but as the planning progressed, I realized I was being sidelined in ways that hurt. For instance, my suggestions were often ignored or dismissed without explanation. More hurtful was how our parents, particularly my mom, would jump in to back Emily up, often contradicting or undermining me, even in trivial things. The straw that broke the camel's back was the seating arrangements. Emily and Jake's wedding had about 150 guests, and seating was a big deal. I suggested some reasonable adjustments to accommodate people who would have social conflicts or mobility issues. Emily brushed off all my suggestions, insisting she had it under control. When I asked why certain close family friends were seated far from the family table, she said, "It doesn't matter. They'll understand." I tried to explain that the arrangement could be uncomfortable and even upsetting for some of them, but she waved me off and said I was overthinking it. I let it go at that point, thinking I could handle a few small frustrations. The day of the wedding arrived, and I tried to focus on enjoying the day. The ceremony went well, and everyone was in high spirits. The reception started, and the first hint of trouble came during the toasts. I was seated near my sister at the head table. As the speeches progressed, I noticed Emily's maid of honor, her best friend, Sarah, making snide remarks under her breath about my appearance and my career choices in front of some relatives. It was subtle but unmistakable. I tried to ignore it, but it stung, especially because our parents didn't seem to notice or intervene. Then came dinner. I had a seat next to a cousin who has chronic back problems, and the table was incredibly cramped. I politely mentioned to the staff that we might need a slightly larger table, but they said everything was finalized. Frustrated, I quietly adjusted the seating for my cousin to make it bearable, but it meant others had to shift uncomfortably. Emily noticed and gave me a sharp look, whispering, "Stop trying to control everything." I tried to explain my reasoning, but she dismissed me with a laugh and walked away. The breaking point came during the dancing. Emily and Jake had a choreographed first dance, and everyone was watching. I went to the bar to get a drink because I needed a moment to calm down. While waiting, a few of Emily's friends made jokes about me being jealous or bitter about how perfect Emily's wedding was. I laughed it off initially, but when I returned to the dance floor, one of the friends intentionally bumped into me, spilling my drink. I lost it. I called out the friend in front of everyone, and my voice got loud enough to draw the attention of many guests. I said something along the lines of, maybe if people actually respected others instead of sucking up to Emily all the time, we wouldn't have these ridiculous tensions. The entire room went silent, and Emily looked shocked. I could see tears welling in her eyes, and I immediately felt a pang of guilt. But it didn't stop there. Emily confronted me right after, and instead of apologizing, I kept going. I mentioned how everyone, including our parents, always seemed to side with her and how my opinions were constantly dismissed. I told her that this day, which was supposed to be about celebrating love, felt like a stage where everyone had to cater to her ego. At this point, Jake intervened and tried to calm me down, but I told him I wasn't done. I honestly think I said more than I should have, including some personal critiques about Emily's behavior that were harsh and specific enough that people at other tables could hear snippets. Our parents were mortified. Some guests tried to console me, while others whispered about how inappropriate my behavior was. Emily retreated to a corner, crying, and Jake looked incredibly uncomfortable. Eventually, my mom pulled me aside and told me I needed to apologize immediately or face serious consequences with the family. I wanted to explain my perspective, but I also realized that my outburst had gone way too far, so I apologized in a low voice to Emily and tried to remove myself from the scene. After the wedding, the fallout has been intense. Emily hasn't spoken to me beyond a few curt texts. My parents are disappointed, saying I ruined what should have been a joyful occasion. Several extended family members have hinted that I was out of line and that my jealousy and resentment are unhealthy. Some friends have reached out to say they understand my frustration, but that the public confrontation was unacceptable. I feel a mix of emotions. On one hand, I recognize that losing my temper and airing grievances in front of everyone was wrong. On the other hand, I feel like my feelings about being constantly sidelined and dismissed were valid, and that Emily and our parents never gave me a chance to express them respectfully beforehand. I'm struggling to reconcile the guilt I feel for causing a scene with the frustration that has been bottled up for years. AITA for losing my cool at my sister's wedding and causing such a public scene? AITA for refusing to help my sister after she sabotaged my wedding? I, 32F, have always been the responsible sibling in my family. My younger sister, Mia, 29F, is the complete opposite, impulsive, selfish, and often manipulative. Growing up, I was the one who got good grades, followed rules, and generally tried to make life smoother for everyone around me. Mia, on the other hand, would do whatever she wanted, often at the expense of others. Our parents indulged her, which only reinforced her sense of entitlement. Fast forward to last year, I got engaged to my fiancé, Ryan, 34M. Ryan and I had been together for 8 years, and I had finally convinced myself that I was ready to start our life together officially. I was thrilled to plan the wedding, and I tried to involve Mia as much as possible because I wanted her to feel included. I asked her to be my maid of honor, which she accepted enthusiastically. For months, I assumed she was genuinely excited, and I shared all my plans, including dress shopping, venue tours, and seating arrangements. The problem started subtly at first. Mia would forget important tasks or show up late, but I brushed it off as her being busy. Then it escalated. During one dress fitting, she tried on my maid of honor dress and made a scene about how it wasn't flattering, even though it fit perfectly. She hinted that I should choose a different color because she felt it clashed with her skin tone. I felt awkward, but tried to compromise to avoid drama. A few weeks before the wedding, things got worse. I had carefully planned a seating chart to ensure that distant relatives who didn't get along weren't seated together. Mia insisted that certain people deserved to sit in prime spots, and when I refused, she quietly switched some name cards on the tables when no one was looking. It caused confusion during the reception, and some of my parents' friends ended up sitting far from where they were supposed to be. The biggest blow came 2 days before the wedding. I had hired a professional photographer and sent Mia a copy of the schedule so she would know where to be for group photos. She ignored the schedule entirely and decided she wanted to look better in pictures, moving people around and changing the flow of shots. By the time the photographer noticed, I was furious because she had completely disrupted hours of planning and made me look disorganized in front of guests. On the day of the wedding, I thought things might finally calm down. Unfortunately, Mia saved her worst behavior for last. During the ceremony, she loudly whispered criticisms to the bridesmaids, and she intentionally tripped over her dress as I was walking down the aisle. It was subtle enough that most guests didn't notice, but Ryan and I saw it. Later, at the reception, she made a snide comment about my dress to my mother in front of everyone, implying that I didn't deserve such a beautiful gown. After the wedding, I confronted Mia about her behavior. She laughed and said I was overreacting and that she just wanted to make things more interesting. She insisted she didn't sabotage anything intentionally, which I found impossible to believe given the timing and pattern of her actions. Our argument escalated, and we haven't spoken much since then. Now comes the current situation. Mia recently got engaged herself and reached out to ask if I would help her plan her wedding. She wanted me to take care of her seating chart, manage her vendors, and make sure her family behaves, essentially everything I had done for my own wedding. I told her no. I explained that I didn't feel comfortable investing time, energy, or emotional labor into an event where she had previously been actively disruptive and disrespectful. She was furious and accused me of being selfish and holding grudges. She also told our parents that I was refusing to support family, which has caused tension with them, even though I tried to explain the situation calmly. Some of my friends think I'm completely justified in refusing, while others say I should rise above the past for the sake of family harmony. I try to see it from both sides. On one hand, she is family, and weddings are big moments. On the other hand, I feel like what she did to me was cruel and manipulative, and I don't owe her my time or energy after that. Since saying no, Mia has made passive-aggressive comments on social media, and she's invited herself over to my house a couple of times, claiming she just wants to talk. I've been firm about not engaging with her, but the tension is affecting my parents, who are caught in the middle and pressuring me to make things right. I love my sister, but after the way she treated me during one of the most important moments of my life, I don't know if reconciliation is possible or if I even want to participate in her wedding planning at all. So, AITA for refusing to help my sister plan her wedding after she deliberately sabotaged mine? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after what she did to me? 32F, have always been close to my sister, Jenna, 29F, at least until the past couple of years. Growing up, we shared everything from clothes to secrets, and I always thought we had each other's backs. Our family is small, just our parents and the two of us, and we've always relied heavily on each other. I've always been the responsible one, working my way through college and establishing a steady career, while Jenna has always been more spontaneous, sometimes recklessly so. Despite our differences, I thought we were close enough that our disagreements could be worked out, as they always had been. About 2 years ago, I was going through a particularly rough patch. I had just been laid off from my job, and I was struggling with depression and anxiety. Jenna knew all of this because I confided in her, and for a while, she was supportive. She would call me regularly, send me encouraging messages, and even offered to help me network to find a new job. I truly appreciated her support because my parents were always busy with their work and travel commitments, so I leaned on Jenna a lot. Then something happened that changed everything. I had an opportunity to interview for a position that I had wanted for years, a senior role at a company I admired. I was understandably nervous, and I shared the news with Jenna, asking for advice about what to expect. Instead of being supportive, she became distant and snide. At first, I thought she was just joking, but her comments became increasingly pointed. She said things like, "I hope you don't get it, or you'll just leave me in the dust, and don't think this job will make you better than everyone else, okay?" I was shocked. I had never seen this side of her. I tried to brush it off, thinking she was just stressed about her own life, but then she started spreading rumors about me at work. She emailed a mutual acquaintance who worked in the same field and subtly suggested that I was unreliable and unstable, which caused me to miss out on the position. When I confronted her, she laughed and said, "I was just joking, lighten up." Fast forward to last year, Jenna got engaged. Initially, I was genuinely excited for her. She got engaged to Michael, 31M, who I liked at first, but quickly, the planning process became a nightmare. From the beginning, she excluded me from major decisions. She picked vendors, dresses, and even the guest list without consulting me at all. When I tried to express that I felt hurt, she told me I was being dramatic and that I should just trust her judgment. My parents sided with her, saying it was her wedding and she could do whatever she wanted. I accepted that, but I tried to stay involved where I could. Things took a turn for the worse about 3 months ago. She invited me to a private brunch with her bridal party to discuss details. I thought it would be a chance for us to reconnect. During the brunch, she started making veiled jokes about my personal life, including my recent breakup, my financial struggles, and even my mental health issues. She framed it as funny stories, but it was humiliating. I tried to laugh it off, but when I confronted her later, she said I was too sensitive and should get over it. This wasn't the first time she had done something like this, but it was the first time it had been in front of friends and other family members. I left feeling embarrassed and betrayed. After that, I tried to distance myself, but she kept texting, calling, and even showing up at my apartment unannounced, pressuring me to forgive her and attend the wedding. She said things like, "You're my sister, you're supposed to be there for me, and it won't be the same without you." I felt trapped. I explained calmly multiple times that I could not be around someone who had treated me this way, but she refused to acknowledge my feelings. I even tried proposing a compromise that I would attend the ceremony, but skip the reception, but she rejected it outright, saying that if I wasn't present for the entire day, I wasn't truly supporting her. Recently, she sent out the final invitations and included a handwritten note to me. In it, she mentioned how important it was for me to attend because it's not just my wedding, it's a family event, and everyone will notice if you're not there. Reading that note made me feel guilty, but also angry. I realized that she wasn't apologizing or even acknowledging what she had done to me. She was guilt-tripping me into attending. I spoke to our parents about it, hoping they might intervene or at least understand my perspective. My dad said he understood, but reminded me that family sticks together. My mom said she didn't want any drama on the wedding day. Neither of them really supported me, and it felt like I was on my own. Last week, I called Jenna and told her I would not be attending the wedding. I explained in detail why I felt hurt, betrayed, and disrespected, and that her behavior over the past 2 years had made it impossible for me to celebrate her special day. She screamed at me, calling me selfish, immature, and even mentally unstable. She then blocked me on all platforms. Our parents are now furious at me, saying that I've ruined what should have been a happy occasion and that I need to make amends. Extended family has started asking questions, and some have even taken her side, saying I should have swallowed my pride and attended for the sake of appearances. I feel isolated and upset, but I also feel like I can't betray my own boundaries and mental health just to appease her. I keep replaying everything in my head, wondering if I overreacted. I understand that weddings are important and that family wants to see everyone come together. But at what point does standing up for myself become selfish? I know some people might say I should forgive and move on, but I can't ignore the past 2 years of being belittled, sabotaged, and emotionally manipulated. I'm not sure if I am the wrong here or if I'm justified in refusing to attend. I also don't want this decision to completely destroy any chance of reconciliation in the future, but I also feel like attending would be endorsing the way she treated me. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after everything that has happened between us. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after what happened at my mom's birthday. I, 28F, have always been close with my younger sister, Clara, 25F. We grew up sharing a lot, and I honestly thought we were inseparable. Our relationship has been strained lately, but I still care about her deeply. I have been with my boyfriend, Alex, 30M, for 4 years, and he has been a steady, supportive presence in my life. I also have a complicated relationship with my mom, Laura, 52F. She's loving in her own way, but can be extremely controlling and judgmental. A few weeks ago, it was my mom's birthday. I wanted to do something special, so I organized a small surprise gathering at my apartment with a few family members and close friends. I made all the food myself, decorated the place, and bought a few gifts. I even invited my sister, expecting her to be excited about celebrating with our mom. The day of the birthday, everything was going smoothly until my sister arrived with her fiancé, Mike, 27M. She immediately started criticizing the decorations and the food. She said the food looked cheap and unimpressive, and that the decorations were not Instagram-worthy. I tried to brush it off and explain that I'd spent hours preparing everything, but she continued to make snide remarks in front of everyone. I could feel everyone's discomfort, but I tried to stay calm. Then, she noticed a gift I had bought for my mom, a custom photo album with pictures from all of our family trips. She loudly said, "Seriously? You spent $50 on this? Mom deserves something way better." My mom looked a little embarrassed, but I was furious. I tried to defend myself, saying it was the thought that mattered, not the price tag. She didn't apologize. Instead, she rolled her eyes and started talking about how she had already gotten Mom an expensive spa package. The last straw came when she demanded that everyone sing Happy Birthday in a very elaborate, choreographed way she had apparently planned. I told her that wasn't necessary and that a simple singing would be fine. She yelled at me in front of everyone, calling me stubborn and childish for ruining her idea. My mom tried to intervene, but she just ignored her. At that point, Alex stepped in and told her to calm down, and she ended up storming out, saying we had ruined the whole day. Afterwards, I called my sister to talk about what happened. I was hoping for some acknowledgement or an apology, but she refused to admit she had overreacted. She accused me of being overly sensitive and said that I can't handle anyone having opinions about my cooking or decorating. I reminded her that she had publicly humiliated me in front of everyone and that her behavior was completely unnecessary. She told me that if I couldn't handle her criticism, maybe I shouldn't be invited to future events. Fast forward to last week. My sister called to invite me to her wedding, which is happening in a few months. She sounded enthusiastic at first, but when I reminded her of the birthday incident and expressed that I wasn't sure I could be around her without feeling upset, she became defensive. She said, "That was a long time ago. Stop holding grudges. Everyone makes mistakes. You're being dramatic." She implied that if I didn't come, it would be seen as me being petty and that I would be upsetting our mom. I tried to explain that it's not about holding grudges. It's about protecting my mental health and feeling respected. I also pointed out that I didn't feel comfortable attending a celebration where I might face public humiliation again. She said that if I truly loved her, I would put the past aside and attend because it's her big day. I haven't responded to her invitation yet. Part of me feels guilty because I know she wants her family there, and I do want to be part of important moments in her life. But another part of me feels like attending after everything that happened would be forcing myself into a situation where I might be disrespected again. I also worry that if I show up, I'll have to endure passive-aggressive comments or another public confrontation. Alex supports me in not going, saying that my boundaries are valid and that it's okay to skip events that compromise my emotional well-being. My mom, surprisingly, is on my side as well. She said she understands that Clara's behavior was hurtful and that I shouldn't feel obligated to attend if I don't want to. However, other family members are pressuring me, saying that it's just a wedding and that I'm overreacting by considering not going. Some even imply that I should just grin and bear it for the sake of appearances. I keep thinking about what it would be like if I go, try to be polite while constantly on edge, possibly being the target of more criticism, and feeling like I have to justify my presence or defend myself repeatedly. I also think about what would happen if I don't go, hurting my sister and disappointing other family members who expected me to attend. I'm torn because I don't want to escalate the conflict with my sister, and I want to maintain family harmony. But I also can't shake the memory of how humiliating the birthday was and the fact that she refused to acknowledge it or apologize. So, AITA for considering not going to my sister's wedding because of how she treated me at my mom's birthday. I feel like my boundaries are valid, but everyone keeps saying I'm being unreasonable and that weddings are supposed to bring families together, not drive them apart. Has anyone been in a similar situation? How do you balance wanting to support family events with protecting yourself from repeated emotional harm? I don't want to burn bridges, but I also don't want to be humiliated again. AITA for confronting my sister over her behavior at my wedding and causing a huge family rift. I never thought my wedding would be the catalyst for a family meltdown, but here we are. My name is Jessica, I'm 32, and I got married last year to my partner, Daniel. We have been together for 8 years, so we've been planning this day for a long time. I have a younger sister, Emily, who is 27, and while we've always had a somewhat competitive relationship, I'd never considered her behavior at family events to be truly harmful, just annoying at times. That changed drastically in my wedding, and it's caused a deep rift between us and our family. Leading up to the wedding, Emily had made comments that made me uncomfortable. She would constantly ask about the dress, the flowers, the seating arrangements, and make remarks like, "I just hope my dress is the prettiest," or "I'm sure people will notice my shoes before yours." I tried to brush it off as typical sister rivalry and didn't address it because I didn't want to start fights before the wedding. Daniel noticed it too, but he didn't think it would escalate to anything serious. We were wrong. The day of the wedding, Emily arrived late, which was unusual for her, but I didn't think much of it because traffic in our area is unpredictable. She was wearing a floor-length gown in a deep red, which, while beautiful, was much bolder than what I expected from a guest. My mother had suggested a softer color to avoid clashing with the bridal party, but Emily insisted it was her signature look. At first, I let it slide because I didn't want to create tension right before the ceremony. During the ceremony, she kept fidgeting, whispering, and taking photos in ways that blocked the photographer. When I asked her later to move so she wouldn't ruin the shots, she rolled her eyes and muttered under her breath. I started feeling a knot in my stomach, realizing she wasn't going to just blend in and enjoy the day with us. After the ceremony, during the reception, things got worse. Emily began openly criticizing the food, the decor, and even the music in front of our extended family and friends. She kept making jokes about how she would have done things differently and comparing our choices to her taste. Our guests noticed, and some came up to me privately to ask if she was joking or if I was okay. I was embarrassed but tried to keep my composure. Daniel, thankfully, stayed calm and tried to distract me, but the tension was palpable. The breaking point came during the toasts. My best friend gave a heartfelt speech about our relationship and how we'd grown together, and Emily stood up and interrupted to correct some details about our history, claiming she had a better perspective. She turned it into a story about her involvement in our lives, making herself the center of attention. The room went silent, and I felt my face flush with anger. I had tried to keep everything cordial, but this was blatant disrespect. After the toast, I pulled Emily aside and asked her to stop creating drama and to respect the day. She laughed in my face and said I was overreacting and that people loved hearing my version of events. I told her that wasn't the point and that her behavior was selfish and inappropriate, especially on my wedding day. She said she was just having fun and stormed off to sit with our aunt. I thought I'd made my stance clear, but things didn't settle there. Later that night, while Daniel and I were trying to enjoy our first dance, Emily came up again, loudly saying how she couldn't believe how stiff and boring the dance was and that she could show people how to really move. Guests were uncomfortable, and Daniel had to intervene. At that point, I was beyond frustrated. I grabbed Emily and told her in front of some family that she needed to either respect us and leave the drama behind or leave entirely. My words were sharp, and she looked shocked. She said I was humiliating her and stormed out of the venue, slamming the doors so hard I thought the walls shook. The aftermath has been brutal. My parents are torn. My mom says I overreacted and should have handled her more gently, while my dad is quietly supportive but avoids confrontation. Emily has refused to speak to me since the wedding, even ignoring texts and calls. She has also told our extended family that I attacked her for being herself and ruined the fun of the wedding. Some relatives have taken her side, claiming I should have been more accommodating, while others understand why I confronted her. Daniel supports me completely and says I was within my rights to protect our wedding day from her behavior. I've been struggling with guilt, partly because I know my words were harsh, and partly because I've never seen Emily react like this. Part of me wonders if I could have diffused the situation better, perhaps by involving our parents beforehand or addressing her behavior in a private, calmer conversation. On the other hand, I feel that she crossed a line repeatedly and publicly, and that day was supposed to be about Daniel and me, not her. Since the wedding, the tension has extended to other family gatherings. Some events I've skipped because I don't want to deal with her or people taking sides. Emily has also made indirect posts on social media criticizing me and my overreaction, which has complicated my relationship with mutual friends. I keep replaying the wedding day in my mind, wondering if I handled things appropriately or if I escalated unnecessarily. My therapist says I was justified in setting boundaries, but also encourages me to reflect on how I delivered them. Now I'm left with a fractured relationship with my sister, an awkward family dynamic, and a lot of second-guessing about how I handled the situation. I'm conflicted because part of me believes I did what any person would do to protect their wedding day, and part of me worries I hurt my sister unnecessarily. So, AITA for confronting my sister so forcefully at my wedding, even though she was clearly disrespecting the day and creating chaos? Or should I have tolerated her behavior for the sake of family harmony, even at the cost of my own peace and the atmosphere of my wedding? AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding after years of tension. I, 32F, have a younger sister, Lily, 28F, who has always been difficult when it comes to family events. Growing up, she was the kind of sibling who needed to be the center of attention, and any perceived slight would result in long periods of silent treatment. Our parents were often caught in the middle, trying to mediate disputes that seemed to escalate over trivial things, like who got the bigger slice of cake or who was allowed to use the family car first. Over time, I learned to pick my battles, but our relationship has never been smooth. A few years ago, I got married to my husband, Alex, 34M. Our wedding was small, about 60 people, mostly family and close friends. Lily attended, but instead of celebrating with me, she spent much of the day complaining about how her dress was uncomfortable and how she didn't like the seating arrangement. She even threw a minor tantrum when she realized she wasn't in the official photos as much as she thought she should be. I tried to shrug it off at the time, telling myself that it was her way of coping with anxiety, but looking back, it was a clear indicator of how she handled significant family events. Fast forward to last year, Lily got engaged to her fiancé, Jason, 30M. She immediately started planning the wedding and made it very clear that she wanted me to host the rehearsal dinner and potentially even help with some of the wedding logistics. I hesitated at first, given our history, but I tried to be accommodating. I agreed to host the rehearsal dinner at my house, thinking it would be a small, simple affair. From the start, things went sideways. Lily insisted on having very specific decorations, which were not only expensive but also clashed with my personal taste and style. When I suggested compromises, she became visibly upset, claiming that I was trying to undermine her vision. I eventually relented, spending hundreds of dollars on decorations, catering, and even a rented tent for my backyard, even though this put a strain on my finances. The day of the rehearsal dinner was chaotic. Lily criticized the food, complained about the seating arrangements, and demanded that I move people around to suit her preferences. She even got into an argument with Alex over something minor about table settings, and I had to step in to prevent the situation from escalating. By the end of the night, I was exhausted, stressed, and frustrated. I felt like I had spent weeks bending over backward to make this event perfect for her, only to be treated like nothing I did was good enough. After that night, I made it clear that while I wanted to support her wedding, I would not be involved in the planning beyond attending as a guest. I set boundaries, explaining that she needed to take responsibility for her own event. She seemed to understand at the time, but then she dropped a bombshell a few weeks later. She wanted to host the entire wedding at my house. She argued that my backyard was perfect for her vision and that it would save her and her fiancé a lot of money. I was shocked. Not only was the wedding far bigger than our rehearsal dinner, she was expecting about 150 guests, but this would also require significant remodeling, tent rentals, and catering for a large group. I refused outright, explaining that I would not subject myself to that level of stress and intrusion, especially after the ordeal of the rehearsal dinner. She exploded, accusing me of being selfish, unsupportive, and jealous of her big day. She reminded me of how much I owed her for attending her events over the years, implying that it was my duty to help her now. Our parents tried to mediate, suggesting compromises like renting part of a local venue or hosting only the reception at my house. I stuck to my decision, stating that I would not host any part of her wedding at my property, and that if she wanted my support, it would have to be in a more limited capacity, like attending the ceremony and sending a gift. Things deteriorated after that. Lily started sending passive-aggressive messages, highlighting everything I supposedly did wrong during her rehearsal dinner and hinting that I was being selfish and petty. She even went so far as to threaten to exclude me from key events if I didn't change my mind, claiming it would ruin the family's reputation. My parents pressured me to relent, but I held firm, explaining that my mental health and personal boundaries had to come first. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, Lily's resentment became more pronounced. She started making public statements to mutual friends and family, painting me as the villain who refused to support her. Some family members took her side, which hurt, but I knew deep down that agreeing to host the wedding would only validate her manipulative behavior. On the day of the wedding, I attended the ceremony with Alex, but avoided the reception. I sent a heartfelt gift and a card, congratulating them and wishing them well. Lily refused to speak to me, making it clear that she blamed me entirely for any tension within the family. Some distant relatives asked me if I felt guilty, and I explained calmly that while I supported her as a sister, I had limits on what I could do without compromising my well-being. Since then, the family dynamic has been strained. I occasionally get messages from my parents asking me to try to smooth things over, but I've maintained my stance. Some friends have told me I was right to protect my boundaries, while others think I should have been under pressure to avoid drama. I understand that weddings are emotionally charged, but I also feel that Lily's behavior over the years has been controlling and manipulative, and agreeing to host her wedding would have reinforced that pattern. So, AITA for refusing to host my sister's wedding at my house after years of dealing with her demanding behavior. I want to support her, but I also refuse to let my home and personal life become a battlefield. My stance has created significant tension in the family, and while I feel justified, I can't help but wonder if I went too far. I'm sharing this here because I genuinely want to understand whether my decision was reasonable or if I should have tried harder to accommodate her vision. I want to maintain my boundaries, but I also don't want to be seen as the villain in my family's eyes. AITA for refusing to host my sister's surprise baby shower after she excluded me from planning. I, 32F, have always had a complicated relationship with my sister, Emily, 28F. Growing up, we were close, but as we got older, we started to drift apart, largely due to her controlling tendencies and my reluctance to follow her lead in family matters. Over the years, there have been a few big incidents, mostly minor disputes over holidays or family events, but nothing catastrophic. That said, our relationship has always had an undercurrent of tension that never fully went away. Emily recently announced she was pregnant. I was genuinely happy for her and offered congratulations. I have always wanted to be a part of her life milestones, despite our differences. A few weeks after her announcement, I received a group message from her friends and some distant family members asking for my help with her baby shower. I thought this was strange because Emily had never asked me directly, but I assumed she wanted me involved in some way. I responded positively, saying I would be happy to help. A few days later, Emily contacted me privately. She told me she and her best friend had already started planning the shower and that they wanted it to be a small, intimate gathering with only a few close friends. She added that she didn't want me involved in the planning because she wanted the event to be a surprise and was worried I would overcomplicate things. I was confused because I had not expressed any desire to plan the shower, only to help, but I didn't press the issue. I simply said I understood and that I would respect her wishes. Fast forward to last weekend, Emily casually mentioned that the shower was happening at our parents' house next month. I hadn't been informed about any of the logistics, guest list, or the timing. A few hours later, I ran into my mom and told her I was surprised I hadn't heard from Emily about the event. My mom casually mentioned that Emily had specifically said she did not want me involved in any way, including attending early setup or contributing decorations. I was stunned. This felt less like a surprise and more like a deliberate exclusion. It wasn't that I had anything against being surprised. It was that I had been actively cut out of participating entirely. I tried to reach Emily to talk about it. I called and texted, asking if there was a reason she didn't want me to be part of this special moment. Her response was curt. She said she felt it would be easier without me and that she wanted to control the entire shower herself. I asked if she at least wanted me to attend, and she said yes, but she emphasized that I should just come, sit quietly, and not interfere. I felt hurt and belittled. It seemed like she was trying to sideline me in an event that was meant to celebrate her life-changing moment, and I wasn't sure I could handle pretending everything was fine. After talking to my partner, friends, and even my therapist, I decided I would not attend the shower unless my role was respected. I sent Emily a message explaining that I couldn't just come to her baby shower and sit quietly while others celebrated her. I said that if she wanted me to attend, I needed to be included in some meaningful way, whether that was helping with setup, organizing a small activity, or even just participating in planning. Otherwise, I couldn't be part of an event where I felt deliberately minimized. I also mentioned that I was willing to celebrate her in other ways, like a dinner after the shower or helping with the nursery, but I could not attend under the conditions she set. The response I received from Emily was unexpected. She accused me of being dramatic, trying to ruin her special day, and implying that I was controlling even though she had been explicit about her wishes. She said that she didn't want me to dictate how she celebrated her pregnancy and that the shower was hers, not mine. Our parents weighed in as well. They said I was overreacting and that Emily was just trying to have the kind of shower she wanted. They suggested I should simply attend quietly and let her have her moment. This has caused a huge rift in the family. Some relatives have sided with Emily, arguing that I should respect her wishes, while others privately told me that Emily's behavior is exclusionary and unfair. I've tried to explain that my refusal isn't about controlling the shower. It's about wanting to be included in something meaningful, not just show up as an observer. I've also offered alternatives to show support, but Emily and her friends are adamant that they want no additional involvement from me. I'm now caught between wanting to maintain family relationships and feeling like I'm being intentionally excluded from an important life event. I love my sister, and I genuinely want to celebrate her, but I can't help feeling hurt and sidelined. I've considered just attending quietly to avoid drama, but I'm worried it will lead to resentment and further tension. My partner has been supportive, saying I have the right to set boundaries and that it's reasonable to want a meaningful role in family milestones. Some friends argue that my sister should have the freedom to celebrate how she wants, while others agree with me that excluding close family is unnecessarily hurtful. I feel like I'm in a no-win situation. I want to be there for Emily and support her during her pregnancy, but I also don't want to be treated like an outsider in my own family. I've offered compromises, but they've been rejected. The more I think about it, the more it feels like attending under her rules would be a passive acknowledgement that it's acceptable to treat me as expendable. I'm still hoping for a resolution where I can celebrate her joy without compromising my own boundaries. But right now it feels like there isn't one. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's baby shower under the conditions she set. I understand she wants control over her special day, but I also feel like her decision to exclude me entirely is unfair and hurtful. I'm struggling to balance my desire to support her with my need to feel respected and included. I really don't want this to destroy our relationship, but I also don't want to feel like my presence is meaningless. I'm looking for perspective on whether I'm being unreasonable or if my feelings are valid. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos also. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.